We're back up this time with Washington Football Live talking about the X's, Julie Donaldson, Santana Moss. This is presented by Pepsi. Santana, we're talking about the free agency ads that they did this offseason. They didn't go in and bring in a lot of big names. They didn't spend a ton of money, but what they did is they brought in depth. They brought in players with experience that can come in and contribute and kind of have to earn it and work for it if they're going to be able to stay. It's a different approach. Some people wanted the big sexy name, but you know what? You got to be able to evaluate your team and know which direction you want to go in.
No doubt. Getting the big sexy names is not always good for your organization or your team, and I think these guys that they brought in will allow this team to have that depth that was needed, and also the experience of knowing what it takes to get to the next level, playing in the postseason and just having some veteran leadership.
So if we go through them, we're going to start with Ronald Darby. He's a local guy from Oxon Hill, Maryland. He played Washington 4 times, 3 with Philadelphia and 1 with Buffalo. They say he has a lot of upside here. He's spent a good bit of his career kind of being hurt a little bit, but he's a good player. He has the talent. It's a matter of having the opportunities and staying healthy out there to try and contribute.
No doubt. He had a strong start coming out as a rookie in Buffalo, dealt with some injuries in Philly. Just got back to, some of his, swag and some of the norm for him last season, coming off that knee injury in 2018, I believe. He was always around the ball, but just couldn't make the play all the time. He's a guy who can play in and outside, so I'm looking forward to seeing, what he can do with us, whether he will be an outside guy, or inside guy.
Well, Coach likes to move players around a lot. That's one of the biggest things is he wants versatility. So if we continue on the list, Kendall Fuller fits one of those. Like he was here with Washington before, but with the Alex Smith trade, he was left. He did win a Super Bowl ring last year with Kansas City, had an interception in the Super Bowl as well. But when he left, he always wanted to stay back here. He is from here as well. Coach says he wants to use him in many flexible positions, as corner in the nickel and free safety if he can. Look, we've kept hearing time and time again, Santana, how important that is for Coach.
Yeah, he's versatile. He's a guy that's very instinctive. He was a baller. He's a guy that he understands now what it's like to go to play in the postseason. He played here on some pretty bad teams, went away from us and came back. You can always use that from a guy that knows what it's like to be on both sides, and then he comes back to this side. So he can give us a big boost in that secondary, just showing those guys what it takes to be dominant in that area.
He's the one that they did go spend a good bit of money on. We're asked, should he be a starter? He said, yeah, for what he's doing, what they're bringing back, he should be your starting corner out there. Also added was another local guy, Sean Davis. He played at Maryland. He's had 4 playoff games for experience for him. And again, another versatile player. They say he can play the strong and free safety position.
Yeah, definitely. He's a headhunter. He's a guy that flies around with his body. He's another local guy that has experience of playing in this area. Looking forward to seeing what he can bring. He was a guy that got hurt last year in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh defense actually, played better when he was down. So I'm not sure if that's, you can blame it on him or not, but he's a guy that has a lot of potential. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in Jack Del Rio's defense.
Of course, you have Landon Collins out there, and many people want to, I kind of even hate to say this because he doesn't want to do it, but he's kind of like more of a box safety. But also when I hear a little bit about him, which you would think would be opposite, they kind of say a little bit box safety as well. But I know they're going to try and be able to see how he can kind of really grow in that position. So, but he does have a good bit of experience, 36 NFL games, but he's on, again, those 1-year, $5 million prove-it kind of a contract. Big hitter, has the speed. We won't really be able to know how a lot of these guys fit in because we keep asking the coaches to say once they put the pads on, we'll be able to tell.
Different
so we're kind of asking them to give us more of an evaluation when they flat out say they kind of can't at the moment.
No doubt.
Another player that I know they are really excited about bringing in here is Kevin Pierre-Louis. They call him KPL. And look, he's already out there with the walkthroughs at least. He's working out with the first team in the linebacking room.
Well, he's been around, and Jack Del Rio spoke highly of him, so that allows us to pay close attention to him. But he's a special team guy, and he also brings a lot of depth in that linebacker position. They have a ton of guys at linebacker, so it's going to be interesting to see how his role plans out.
And we talk about experience again, 4 playoff games with Seattle and Kansas. They say he's dynamic, he's fast. He filled in for Chicago at the end of last season and really played well, showed that he can cover and as well bring the blitz. So right now they do have him walking through with the first team in the linebacking core. So it'll be exciting to kind of see where they move him around because they do want to try a lot of different players out. Again, you have to get Reuben Foster in the mix. There are a lot of linebackers in this room they're going to be mixing around and playing with, which isn't too big of a surprise when your head coach and your defensive coordinator both played the position of linebacker. And coming in with, if we're talking about experience, the most experience perhaps on the team would be Thomas Davis Sr. He was with Ron Rivera in Carolina. He spent last year with the Chargers, led them in tackles, 11 playoff games, and Super Bowl 50. He had a nice appearance there.
The ageless wonder, you know, he's a guy, he's the AP of our defense. He's a guy that you can always rest assured that he's going to go out there and give you his all. And he can actually be great, you know, be very vital, you know, to that linebacker core. He can show these guys what it takes to be a consistent pro. That's one of the things that you can put behind his name, consistency. He's done it for a long time. Even went over to the Chargers and went out there and led the defense, and they said he didn't have his best year. So
right.
I'm looking forward to him to have those kind of numbers here, and I'm sure we're not going to say the same thing.
When they're in base defense right now, they have had him with the first team along with KPL, rotating Cole Holcomb in there as well and John Bostic. But he said in sub packages he's with the third string, and he said no. He's like, I'm going to make it really hard. I understand I'm in my 16th season. I'm going to make it really hard for them to keep me off the field because he still believes. And the scouting report I got him is that he still has the ability to play. But he says whatever you need. If you need me to play a lot of time, I will be able to play it. If you need me here to coach up the young guys and be a mentor to them, he'll be that as well. So a really good add to the locker room. So if we're talking about the free agents that they did bring in, each one you'll notice, I said they have playoff experience. The defensive average age of years of experience is 4.8. For the team as a whole, it's 4.6. It's a relatively young team. How important, though, is it for you when you bring in that playoff experience to really kind of help these guys? Does it make a difference?
It varies. You know, one of the things that I've, you know, from my experience, and I only could speak on experience. So I've been a guy that came from a team where I had a lot of playoff experience, and you can tell by just some of the things I did in my room alone. I can see the guys kind of like, you know, pay close attention to it, and then you hear the coach say, "Hey, when we do X, Y, and Z, watch Santana." You know what I mean? So that led me to know that, you know, they paid attention to how I'm playing, the tempo I'm going. So I think that trickles down. With these guys having that experience, knowing what it's like to be, you know, be a postseason team. Some of these guys have, you know, Super Bowl experience. It only can, you know, fits our team, you know, well when it comes to these other guys who haven't had that experience, watching them practice and knowing what it's like and knowing what it takes to get there.
You know, if you talk to coaches, they might say the experience is a little bit overrated because they just want to have good players that have the ability to do that. But I can kind of see from your point where you say, you know what, we can kind of understand because the player can tell you what to expect. A coach just wants the best players out there that can go and win. They don't care if you've been on Super Bowl teams. If you're a depth guy for them or if you're in the practice squad, I don't think it matters as much. But you're still learning from a player, from somebody who has that.
Yeah, all those guys matter to me when it comes down to it. Whether you was a guy that played a lot of downs or you was just a guy on the team, you know what it takes to up your game, you know, and that's something that you can bring to your core, bring to the room, bring to the team as a whole to let them know, hey, look, the way we going about this, we're not going to get to where we're trying to go. Let's do this and do that and change up how we're doing things and just giving your perspective of what it took for your team to be successful and why y'all was able to, you know, have many playoff berths. So I think it varies. Like I said before, it varies. But coaches might not, you know, see that fitting. As a player, I saw it make a big difference for us.
What about when it comes to the speed of the game? Is that something where maybe you can help? Because I mean, when you do get to the postseason, is the speed that much different?
Those lights are much brighter, and the speed is totally different. I mean, it's do or die. You know, we can kind of, you know, compare it to how guys look at it in the basketball side of it. They have many games that they can play through to get to that next game. Football is just one game. You know, this is your championship game. You play each playoff game, even the game to get into the playoffs, like a championship game. So the speed is way different than what it is in the regular season because all the marbles rely on us going out here and doing our thing now. And we can't save anything for tomorrow. I remember being one of those guys in those situations where, you know, didn't know what it took. And when I got out there, I was shocked by just how the light shining that much bright on me. But playing the game that you know and you love, you know what it takes to go out there and win. So these guys, once they in that moment, they know how to play ball.
What about just bringing the new faces in? When you do have your core roster, then you bring in the free agents and, you know, they're all of a sudden in with you. The challenge of just getting to know them, or how can they kind of help energize the team as well?
You know, one of the things about that, I mean, most teams have many guys coming in and out of the doors anyway. So I never saw that, you know, hampering, you know, how a team, you know, take on or handle their business. It's great to have those guys that come in and that can make an immediate impact. You know, I've been here when I got here. I remember making an immediate impact. The offense was different when I got here. Everyone told me that. I mean, you can see it in our play. Same way when I sat back and watched London Fletcher come here. The defense was different. You know, we had some success, but he was a guy that was always around the ball, so he ignited everybody else's fire and made sure those guys played accordingly. So it just varies on who the guy is. But most of the guys that come in and play out the gate, those guys do set the tone for, whatever side they're on.
And a good bit of these free agents have the opportunity to be starters and playmakers within the roster going forward into 2020. Again, it's still early to be able to understand exactly how the rotations are going to go, but that's why practice is getting ramped up behind us.